I look like a serviceman, like a guy that goes to your house and, I don't know, sells you sparklets water, or like the salesman from a company, huh? So I'm excited to say we're starting a new book today. Let's just take the hat off. Just you and I, right? So I'm excited about this. My eye doctor actually mentioned this book. It's one of his favorite, he says. Kind of said it's a little satirical. It's supposed to kind of poke fun at society, not necessarily be like prejudice or anything, just kind of realism, you know? So I'm excited about it. Tortilla Flat, I read the back part. Do I read the preface or we just jump right in, guys? There's a preface and it's after the title. So I feel like that's for a reason, right? So this is going to be for the preface, which is only a couple pages, and the first chapter, which didn't seem that long. When I opened the book, I was on the third chapter already, and it was like right here somewhere. It's not that much, so here we go. Tortilla Flat by John Steinbeck. The preface, the preface. This is the story of Danny and of Danny's friends and of Danny's house. It is a story how these three became one thing, so that in Tortilla Flat, if you speak of Danny's house, you do not mean a structure of wood flaked with old whitewash overgrown with an ancient untrimmed rose of Castile. No, when you speak of Danny's house, you are understood to mean a unit of which the parts are men, from which came sweetness and joy, philanthropy, and in the end a mystic sorrow. For Danny's house was not unlike the Round Table, and Danny's friends were not unlike the knights of it. So it was not unlike it. And this is a story of how that group came into being, of how it flourished and grew to be an organization beautiful and wise. The story deals with the adventuring of Danny's friends, with the good they did with their thoughts and their endeavors. In the end, this story tells how the tallyman was lost and how the group disintegrated. In Monterey, that old city on the coast of California, these things are well known, and they are repeated and sometimes elaborated. It is well that this cycle be put down on paper so that in a future time scholars, hearing the legends, may not say as they say of Arthur and of Roland and of Robin Hood. There was no Danny nor any group of Danny's friends nor any house. Danny is a nature god and his friends primitive symbols of the wind, the sky, the sun. This history is designed now and ever to keep the sneers from the lips of our sour scholars, or from the lips of sour scholars. Monterey sits on the slope of a hill with the blue bay below it and with the forest of tall dark pine trees at its back. The lower parts of the town are inhabited by Americans, Italians, catchers and canners of fish, but on the hill where the forest and the town intermingle, where the streets are innocent of asphalt and the corners free of streetlights, the old inhabitants of Monterey are embattled as the ancient Britons are embattled in Wales, the ancient Britons. These are the paisanos. They live in old wooden houses set in weedy yards, and the pine trees from the forest are about the houses. The paisanos are clean of commercialism, free of the complicated systems of American business, and having nothing that can be stolen, exploited, or mortgaged. That system has not attacked them very vigorously. What is a paisano? He is a mixture of Spanish, Indian, Mexican, and assorted Caucasian bloods. His ancestors have lived in California for 100 or 2 years. He speaks English with a paisano accent and Spanish with a paisano accent. When questioned concerning his race, he indignantly claims pure Spanish blood and rolls up his sleeve to show that the soft inside of his arm is nearly white, his color like that of a well-browned meerschaum pipe he ascribes to sunburn. His color like that of a well-browned meerschaum pipe he ascribes to sunburn. He is a paisano and he lives in that uphill district above the town of Monterey called Tortilla Flat, although it isn't a flat at all. Danny was a paisano when he grew up in Tortilla Flat and everyone liked him, but he did not stand out particularly from the screeching children of Tortilla Flat. He was related to nearly everyone in the flat by blood or romance. His grandfather was an important man who owned 2 small houses in Tortilla Flat and was respected for his wealth. If the growing Danny preferred to sleep in the forest, to work on ranches, and to wrest his food and wine from an unwilling world, it was not because he did not have influential relatives. Danny was small and dark and intent. At 25, his legs were bent to the exact curves of a horse's sides. Now, when Danny was 25 years old, the war with Germany was declared. Danny and his friend Pilon, by the way, is something thrown in when a trade is concluded, a boot, had 2 gallons of wine when they heard about the war. Big Joe Portagee saw the glitter of the bottles among the pines, and he joined Danny and Pilon. As the wine went down in the bottles, patriotism arose in the 3 men, and when the wine was gone, they went down the hill arm in arm for comradeship and safety, and they walked into Monterey. In front of an enlistment station, they cheered loudly for America and dared Germany to do her worst. They howled menaces at the German Empire until the enlistment sergeant awakened and put on his uniform and came into the street to silence them. He remained to enlist them. The sergeant lined them up in front of his desk. They passed everything but the sobriety test. Then the sergeant began his questions with Pilon. So it is kind of funny, right? Because they just got drunk. What branch do you want to go in? I don't give a goddamn, said Pilon jauntily. I guess we need men like you in the infantry. And Pilon was written so. He turned then to Big Joe, and the Portuguese was getting sober. Where do you want to go? I want to go home, Big Joe said miserably. The sergeant put him in the infantry too. Finally he confronted Danny, who was sleeping on his feet. Where do you want to go? Huh? I say, what branch? What do you mean, branch? What can you do? Me, I can do anything. What did you do before? Me, I'm a mule skinner. Oh, you are? How many mules can you drive? Danny leaned forward vaguely and professionally. How many you got? About 30,000, said the sergeant. Danny waved his hand. String 'em up, he said. So he's going to run people, I think. And so Danny went to Texas and broke mules for the duration of the war. And Pilon marched about Oregon with the infantry, and Big Joe, as shall be later made clear, went to jail. Danny went to Texas and broke mules. So Big Joe's in the infantry. So Big Joe, Pilon's in infantry too? Oh, Pilon infantry, Big Joe infantry, but he ends up going to jail. This is the preface still, so. Well, the preface is the first. No, that's not the first chapter. So Pilon went to the infantry. Danny broke horses. I thought he was gonna be in charge of men. They just seen men as mules. If you run men, you could run. If you could run mules, because 30,000 mules, Jesus. Jesus. I mean, I'm not making fun of Jesus. I felt like I sounded stupid, but. So chapter 1. Okay, well, let's make this a preface, right? 7 minutes. All right, guys. Peace.